Come on, let's all take a picture. Kazu, sit in the middle. I prepared it for you. Gino's Kazu was overjoyed and sat in the middle of the gorgeous beetle decoration. His son Susumu tried to sit next to Kazu, but his mother-in-law stopped him. This is enough, isn't it? He's on a different level from Kazu, who will become an elite. Thor was given an origami beetle decoration by his mother-in-law. Thor was completely frozen while holding the origami beetle decoration, perhaps unable to accept the reality. It's true that Kakeru's husband, Kakeru's brother, is an elite, and his wife Kana is also an international person who speaks fluent English. I can understand the expectations she has for her two sons, Kasukabe. But is it necessary to go this far on the road? My mother-in-law truly looked down on my work as an illustrator. It would be fine if she was the only one to say it. But I couldn't forgive her for saying bad things about me until my son passed by. In my anger, I gave my ultimatum. My name is Arisa Sato. I'm 29 years old and I'm an illustrator. I've loved drawing since I was a child, and I've been writing my favorite manga. I was working as an illustrator, but as I grew up, I began to feel that society was not so easy. So I graduated from university normally, got a job at a regular company, and uploaded illustrations to the internet as a hobby. I was quite satisfied with that, but one day I suddenly received an email. A man who worked in the advertising industry contacted me and said that he wanted to use my illustrations in an advertisement. His name was Kakeru. He was 5 years older than me, and apparently he was inspired by my work when he was looking for illustrations to use in advertisements. Although I thought it was suspicious, we exchanged emails and decided to meet in person. He has a very kind face and speaks gently. We soon exchanged words, and as we talked, I could tell that he was serious about wanting to use my illustrations. It wasn't a big job that would earn me a lot of money, but it became a topic of conversation, and I started to get tired of the requests for illustrations here and there. Then, at a certain point, I started earning more than I did from my job, and I decided to quit my job and make a living as an illustrator. Kakeru and Arisa's words that I could do it became my mentor. At that time, we became close friends after working together on advertising, and we started dating. Our relationship went smoothly and we got married. I thought that you never know what life will bring. After getting married, I decided to live with my parents-in-law. I had heard that my father-in-law was unemployed and financially struggling, and both Gifu and my mother-in-law were friendly, so I thought it would be okay to live with them. In the future, I want to build a house, and it's easier to save money, so it's a good idea. It costs less to live with my parents than to pay rent. My parents-in-law were very happy to live with me. They were living off my father-in-law's savings, so I thought that by offering to help with living expenses, they would finally be able to afford it. However, after several months, my father-in-law couldn't find a job. So I decided to make a suggestion. I heard that my father's company is short on people. How about introducing him to the job? I'll call him because I'll sound pushy, but I'll tell him I heard about it from a friend. Is that okay? I think he'll really be happy about that. Thank you. And so my father-in-law got a job. Seeing the happy gift and my mother-in-law, Cake and I looked at each other and smiled. Soon after, she became pregnant and gave birth safely. I named my son Toru. I was blessed with a small treasure and was full of happiness, but from that time on, my mother-in-law's attitude changed and an uneasy atmosphere began to flow. When I was drawing an illustration in my room, my mother-in-law suddenly came in without knocking. I turned around in surprise and my mother-in-law was staring at me with a cheerful face. What is it? Did something happen? I wanted to tell her about the knock on the door, but I swallowed my words because of my mother-in-law's bad mood. Then my mother-in-law looked at the computer and sighed at the sight. Then she started complaining. Why don't you do housework instead of drawing like that? A hobby is something you do after you've finished all your housework. I've already finished all my housework. And this isn't a hobby. I do it as a job. Ha. Arisa's drawings are just a foot gold. They're not that good. You say you've finished your housework, but you cleaned it properly. There was trash and dust left on the floor. Why should I be told such detailed things when my mother-in-law doesn't do any housework? Besides, she is a professional and serious about her illustration work. Well, Kana-san is an elite. The level is so different that it makes me embarrassed. Kana is Kazuta's wife and apparently she was a childhood friend of Keita and Kakeru. I had heard so many times that the couple currently live overseas and Kana works as an English interpreter. Until now, she had only praised Kana excessively. I somehow felt that there was a hint of sarcasm behind my mother-in-law's words, but I never imagined that she would suddenly burst into my room and say such nasty things. I was always wondering. What were you doing holed up in your room? Illustration work is like a game, so you should do your housework properly instead of such a hobby. Saying that, my mother-in-law closed the door with a loud noise and left. The sound woke up Thor, who was sleeping, and started crying. Since that day, my mother-in-law's attitude has clearly changed. You're a bit noisy. Make the child cry quickly. It's impossible to tell a newborn baby not to cry. My mother-in-law doesn't care about that and often tells me that I'm noisy. In addition, she keeps making remarks to stop me, comparing me to Kana-san, who is amazing, which is mentally damaging. I couldn't take it anymore, so I consulted Kakeru, but she didn't take me seriously. Mom doesn't say things like that. Maybe she's a little tired. Maybe I should take a break from illustration for a while. I couldn't help but feel lonely when Kakeru made such remarks, even though it was my last request. It's the best that Kakeru doesn't believe my plea, but my mother-in-law plays the role of a good mother-in-law when Kakeru is there. She only throws various harsh words at me when Kakeru is not at home. Since my father-in-law started working, I don't need to worry about living expenses anymore. She said that we'll be able to manage, so it's become easier to save money. I'll just have to be patient until I save up enough money to build a house. My mother-in-law kept nagging me, but I swore to myself that I would somehow endure it for the sake of the house. 3 years have passed since then. My mother-in-law continues to act as usual and keeps a good face for Kakeru. As time passed, her words became more and more obscene towards me, but I thought that it would be a loss if I cared about such things, so I let it go emotionlessly. Toru is now 3 years old and has grown up to be cheerful and energetic, which made me really happy. Kakeru is busy with work, leaving the house early in the morning and coming home at midnight. But on holidays, he goes out to play with Toru and goes out to eat with the 3 of us, and is as close to us as possible. I was dissatisfied with the mother-in-law, but other than that, I think he is a really good husband. One day, while I was preparing a meal, my mother-in-law came up to me with great excitement. It's big news. My son and Kana are coming back to Japan. Kazuki should be getting bigger, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them. Sue is currently 5 years old. He went abroad 4 years ago, so he hasn't met his brother and his wife. He's coming to his parents' house for New Year's, and my mother-in-law was in such a good mood that I don't remember seeing her with a big smile on her face, saying that she was looking forward to it. I'm sure they've both become great. Kazu can speak English, and they're all elites. They really have a bright future. My father-in-law was overwhelmed by my mother-in-law and started to treat me coldly. Whenever Akari went to see my father-in-law or mother-in-law, they would tell her to go over there because they were busy, and would push her away as if she was in the way. Every time that happened, my heart was hurt. I could stand it if they blamed me, but I couldn't stand being hurt. That's when I got angry and attacked Gifu and my mother-in-law. But the two of them just grinned and said, "Why should I be kind to a grandchild with no future? We already have Kazu, who is guaranteed to be an elite, and we should keep an eye on Arisa's child," my mother-in-law said, which was unbelievable. I think my father-in-law agrees. Tsukiki. It seems like it's impossible to treat elites and ordinary people equally. You should understand your position. Arisa made a statement that I wouldn't expect from a family member. Anger welled up inside me endlessly, but I thought that it was useless to say anything to those two, so I stopped saying anything after that. Do Grandpa and Grandma hate me? They don't play with me at all. I hugged him when he was feeling down, and it was painful that I could only say that he would just have to be patient for a while. Thor also talked to Kakeru about his father-in-law and mother-in-law, but he said that Grandpa and Grandma have a lot going on too. My father-in-law also cleverly changes his attitude only in front of Kakeru. He continued to be a good father and mother in front of Thor. New Year's came again in this situation. The moment the couples arrived, my mother-in-law said that it was complete. "Oh, well, they've grown up so well, and Kazuki has grown up too." She welcomed the three with a smile I'd never seen before. Gifu also looked satisfied and said that Ellie and her family were different after all, smiling broadly. Then I was greeted by several couples, and they seemed very kind, unlike what I had imagined. "Nice to meet you, Kakeru. You got a beautiful wife. You're doing great. I've always wanted to meet you since I heard that you got married." I didn't feel any pride from the elites who worked hard overseas towards the two of them. I was worried about what would happen if they were people like my father and mother-in-law, but it seems they were perfect. Kakeru also smiled and looked nostalgic. Toru and Kazu quickly became friends with their parents-in-law and parents, and played with toys. After that, we had a meal, and the New Year's dishes I made and the ozoni made by my mother-in-law were lined up on the table. Everyone loved my ozoni. I made it with a change of clothes, so please eat it. Ibo pushed the ozoni he made to the forefront and pushed it forward. Everyone said it was delicious and ate it, and it certainly didn't taste bad. My mother-in-law's meal is 50,000 yen. I don't think it's a big deal because Arisa made the ozoni. Maybe it would have been better if they had eaten the ozoni first. My mother-in-law glanced at me and left with a look of triumph, but everyone except my father-in-law and mother-in-law ate my New Year's food in a tone that was obviously higher than my mother-in-law's New Year's dish, saying, "It's so delicious," and "Risa-san is a good cook." It was beautiful and I was surprised. It's fine. I eat the food Arisa made every day. I was a little embarrassed to be praised so much. The children were the same, and my mother-in-law was practicing Buddhism with a look on her face that said it was different from what they expected. Was my father-in-law being considerate of my mother-in-law? He timidly told my mother-in-law that the New Year's dish was also the best, but my mother-in-law's mood did not improve. Then, perhaps because she was angry, my mother-in-law began to praise the couple and Kazu abnormally. She started to put us down as a person. Putting aside Kakeru, Arisa-san and Toru were like that. Arisa-san's job is drawing. She doesn't make much money, and she is clearly not very attractive. Compared to you elites, I think the difference is already close to Tay. Not only me and Thor, but also the couples looked angry at the sudden criticism. Was told that it was no good, and Kazu, who was next to me, looked unsure of what to do. Kakeru was angry at his mother-in-law. "Mom, that's an exaggeration. It's true that my brothers are amazing. But Arisa and Thor have their own amazing points. There's no need to compare them like that. That's rude. Aren't you going to learn to draw bad pictures? Thor is nothing compared to a piece of trash who is fluent in English, but Arisa and Kana are both great." My father-in-law will never become Kana if he just writes manga to please his mother-in-law. Kazu said that he was straight with Ellie and was looking forward to the future, and he didn't care about hurting me. Are you drunk even though you haven't had any alcohol? If you're going to insult the two of them anymore, I won't keep quiet either. Kakeru shouted in anger. Kazutaka and Kana stepped in and scolded Kakeru. Kazutaka and his wife also kindly told me not to worry about it. In the end, the day ended and Kazutaka and his wife went home after eating a little of the food. I just told the truth. I don't know why it happens so much. Kakeru was still angry and yelled at his mother-in-law not to say such things again, but his mother-in-law showed no sign of remorse. After that, Kakeru apologized to me. I'm sorry for everything. Seeing how mom and dad behaved today, I started to think that what Arisa said was true. I'm glad she understood. It's just a little longer. That's right. Maybe we should take that into consideration and make some decisions. After that, when I passed by, the relationship between my father-in-law and mother-in-law clearly became a contract. The things that had been hidden until now were definitely exposed to Kakeru, but when he found out how seductive Yoshikazu was, that's what would happen. After that, the Cold War continued, but as Children's Day approached, my mother-in-law and father-in-law spoke to me with smiles like they did before they were married. I don't think the current situation is good no matter how you look at it. I think both my father and I were wrong. That's why I want to invite the winners and the others to celebrate with Kazuto on Children's Day. It's not a bad idea, is it? I said terrible things to Arisa-san. I'm really sorry. Let's have a fun celebration on Children's Day and end this bad relationship. I thought it was a convenient story, but Kakeru said he understood. I looked at Kakeru's face without thinking, but he sent me a signal with eye contact. It seems like he has some idea. Toru looked very happy to see Kazu-kun. But I have a bad feeling. If it's like this, I have no choice but to believe Kakeru. And then Children's Day came. My father-in-law and mother-in-law couldn't hide their joy as the long-awaited day had come to town. The Kazeta couple came with searching looks on their faces. Kazu also seemed to be badly punished. As if that didn't matter, Yoshifu and Yoshibu were very excited and the couple looked at each other, and Toru and others were confused by their father-in-law and mother-in-law, who seemed completely different from the last time. Only Kakeru looked very calm and watched the situation. Soon after, my mother-in-law recommended the chamaki and kasiwa mochi that she had prepared, and we all started eating them. It's always best when the whole family eats it together. I'm sure Dad thinks so too. Oh, really? I want to have more opportunities like this to get together. Not just for small children. My mother-in-law and father-in-law glanced at Keita and Kana. They looked at each other with ambiguous expressions. They must have remembered how awful their mothers were during New Year's. No matter how good their moods were this time, it was not an attitude that they would easily forget. Keita and Kana were the ones who were praised, but putting one down and raising the other is not something that is praised in itself. That must be what's bothering them. Our family, who were the ones who were put down, are even more suspicious. The children were crazy about the chamaki and kasiwa mochi, and the two of them were laughing and saying how delicious it was, and seemed to be having fun. Seeing them, I suddenly thought that it might have been good that we got together today. The couples and Kakeru also relaxed their expressions when they saw their children. But unfortunately, it didn't end happily like this. Children's Day is not just about chamaki and kasiwa mochi. I've prepared something even nicer, so will you all come to that room? My mother-in-law said, and we followed her as she led us. There was an incredibly gorgeous beetle decoration there. It was a white item that looked like it would easily exceed 1 million yen, and Kazuki and Toru exclaimed that it was amazing when it was finished. I wonder when she had prepared it. Now that I think about it, I remember that yesterday the table tennis delivery came, and when I was about to leave, my mother-in-law returned to her room, saying that it was something I had ordered. I was disappointed that this was the reason, but from then on, I couldn't stop having a bad feeling. When I looked at Kakeru, he still had a gloomy face. Come on, let's all take a picture. Kazu, please sit in the middle. I prepared it for you. Kazu was overjoyed and sat in front of the beetle decoration. He tried to sit next to Kazu, but his mother-in-law refused to let him sit there, saying that she had prepared something different. Kazu was confused, and his father-in-law handed him an origami beetle decoration with a grin. This should be enough. Kazu is on a different level from the elite. In the future, place names will make a difference like this, so I made her understand as part of her education. In the first place, this is enough for other people. Saying this, my mother-in-law laughed loudly. Toru was handed an origami beetle decoration and stared at it, completely frozen. Kazu and his wife looked at each other with a look of disbelief. Kazu also didn't know what to do and knelt down and looked around at us. My mother-in-law just wanted to get revenge on me for what happened on New Year's Day. That's all she wanted to do, and she even acted with my father-in-law and called the family to embarrass Toru. Well, it's only natural to make a distinction. After all, their natural talents are completely different. Katakana-san, why are you sitting next to Kazu so casually? We have to leave a glimpse of our grandchild. My father-in-law and mother-in-law said with glee. My anger, which had been rising, completely went off the red meter. I can't forgive them for making fun of Toru. And I made a firm declaration in a terrible way. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to fire your father. It was a mistake to show kindness to people like you. The stepmother cried out, then laughed loudly. What does that have to do with Arisa and your father's work? What kind of power does Arisa have, drawing pictures like this? Please don't make me laugh. I'm doing my current job because of a friend of mine. This is not something Arisa should be involved in. Gifu, who was also injured, shook his head several times looking down. However, it was his stepmother and stepfather who didn't understand anything. Kakeru's face was red with anger and he began to tell the truth. It was thanks to Riza that my father got a job. Arisa's father was the president of a construction company, and he couldn't bear to see my father in trouble, so he reached out to help him. If you try to repay kindness with insult, you'll be fired. Or is only 3 years old. What if he becomes traumatized? I will never forgive him. Hearing the story from my mother-in-law and father-in-law looked at me as if they couldn't believe it. Both of them looked pale and looked at each other, trying to say something, but neither of them could get the words out. My mother-in-law managed to squeeze out a voice. I won't be fooled by such a story. It's a ridiculous story that you came up with on the spot because you thought you were cheated by living together. The way you told that nasty lie shows how low your level is, Arisa-san. Go ahead and do it if you can. Mom is right. Go ahead and do it if you can fire me. If they were you, they wouldn't tell such a terrible lie as to fire me. As I thought, we are on completely different levels. Saying this, the two of them started laughing out loud as if they were trying to act tough. The couples shouted at the mothers as if they had lost their tempers. Stop it. Don't use this to belittle Arisa-san and her friends. I'm sorry, but you can't have this beetle decoration. If you think about Toru-kun's feelings, you can't have it. It's even worse than New Year's. It's a shame that parents are the ones who did this. I don't think it's something a good adult would do. I think they should feel ashamed. Just watching them makes me angry at their words and actions. Maybe the two people who loved me are no longer with me. It's such a shame. The two who were brought up by their wives even started complaining to Totaya. I hope they don't get too carried away just because they're elites. This beetle decoration is a white item worth over 1 million yen. Of course they should be grateful. Why don't you want it when you bought it for Kazu? Kazu sighed deeply, as if he didn't understand such a thing. Kana also looked uncomfortable and kept her eyes down, staring at the floor. What's with that attitude? Is that what a person who received a present would do? There must be a better attitude to take. I'll hit my father-in-law who took out his anger on the couple for not thinking things through, and I'll hit him even harder. This was my last chance. I was planning to let everything that happened on New Year's go away if she treated Arisa and Toru properly. But when I opened the lid, this is what happened. It's like a spit in the basin. We're going to leave this house. Kakeru's words caused his mother-in-law and father-in-law to leave. Ignoring the two of them, Kakeru continued. I didn't say anything, but we were building a house. It's almost finished. Mom and Dad probably don't know how popular an illustrator Riza is now. Thanks to Riza, we were able to save up money and buy a house in one lump sum. It was all thanks to the illustrations that Mom said were her hobby. That's right. My illustrations became explosively popular. It started when my illustrations were used in a commercial for a famous company, and thanks to that, many people searched for my illustrations on the internet and they started to get an incredible number of views. Thanks to that, I still have several big jobs. In addition, my illustrations have been made into goods and have recorded considerable sales. The illustrations I drew, such as the pictures of my mother-in-law playing with her mother, continued to generate incredible value. I can't believe that. I can't believe that such a scribbled picture was used in a commercial. Show me the proof. It's probably just another rumor. You've become a worthless liar. I'm disappointed. Ignoring his mother-in-law's insults, Kakeru took out his smartphone and showed her the commercial video that was uploaded to a video site. His mother-in-law's face instantly frightened. The picture here fell silent after saying that. My mother-in-law had come into the room without permission and kept complaining about the illustration, so she probably knew it was mine right away. Seeing my mother-in-law at a loss for words, my father-in-law spoke to her as if to try to intervene. That's amazing. I've always thought I had a talent for drawing. I was going along with it because my mother was a country bumpkin. As expected of Riza, she's the pride of the family. I could only be astonished. Does this person have no pride at all? Moreover, I felt uncomfortable that she was trying to get in my way by cutting off even her warts. My mother-in-law shouted, "What is this about Gifu? You're making me the only one who's the bad guy," quote. And the two of them started arguing. There's nothing we can do about it. We're going home. I don't want to be manipulated any more than this. With that, I went home and started my home. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were so engrossed in their argument that they didn't even look at the couple. Marissa-san, Toru-kun, let's forget about today. Next time, let's get together without your father and mother. I'll contact you. Kana said, holding my hand tightly, then gently stroking Doll's head. Doll-kun, see you later. Yeah, see you later. The children have already changed their minds and seem to be looking forward to their next meeting. I was sure in my heart that the children would get along even better and be able to do things well. Even after the Kazutaka family left the house, my mother-in-law and father-in-law continued to argue. Kakeru and I moved to another room and talked, and came to the conclusion that we should leave this house as soon as possible. The construction of the house was entrusted to my father's company, so when I contacted them to ask how much longer it would take, they said I would be able to move in a week. Also, they are currently finishing the exterior walls, so it seems they can move in right away. I searched for a moving company on the internet and arranged for them to give me a quote right away. When I called, I was being rude and making excuses. I stepped in between my mother-in-law and father-in-law and said, "We're leaving this house right now. We've secured a place to stay. We'll get a quote for the move, so we'll be back when it's time." Quote. I said calmly, "Well, we're going." My mother-in-law and father-in-law immediately begged me not to leave. "Oh, isn't that too sudden? You can take it a little slower. It's impossible for the house not to wait for you. Oh, Arisa and Thor will be tired. If you rush so much, why yes. You don't have to leave the day after tomorrow, you can stay with us without being shy. No, actually, we want to live together forever. So I'd like to ask for your advice. Can we move into a new house together?" I was seriously upset by my father-in-law's words, which were too convenient for me. What kind of nerve does he have to say something like this to us? He has looked down on me so much. My father-in-law and mother-in-law are selfish people who only think about themselves. There is no point in expecting the word, "man," from these two. Living together is out of the question. I have no need for a childlike father and mother who cannot recognize the mistakes they have made. Dad, please find a good job without my help. I think you were fired just now, so please do your best on your own. Well, I don't think it's possible anyway. Do your best. It's about trying. With that, I held his hand and left the suspicious family's house. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were yelling from behind me that I shouldn't get carried away, but they are no longer of any concern to me. I heard Kakeru shouting that he was being persistent with the two of them, and then he came out of the house immediately. Whatever those two say is useless. Kakeru had a complicated expression on his face, a mixture of anger and sadness, and wanted to leave the house as soon as possible. If I imagined my parents were like my parents-in-law, I would have had to look like Kakeru's. We got in the car and headed to my parents' house with Kakeru at the wheel. When we returned to the parents' house to get a quote for the move, they even got on their knees and begged me to take them with them, even though they had a mortgage on their lives. But they were already fed up. The way my parents-in-law treated Toru on Children's Day was completely unforgivable. During the quote for the move, I got on my knees and begged many times, crying and begging, but Kakeru and I didn't pay any attention to me. When we were moving out, Gishiki continued to fawn on me. But when he realized that I wouldn't change my mind, he started to curse me. Are they still family? They leave us without any income. What unfortunate parents. Everyone was acting all cheeky, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law kept yelling at me, ignoring their own feelings. The movers were still there, but when I told them to ignore me, they seemed confused and replied, "I understand." After all of our belongings were packed in and the truck left, they got in the car and headed to our new house. Then my parents-in-law started crying again, clinging to the window and screaming to be taken away. I stared at them for a while, but seemed to give up, thinking they were pathetic to the end. Then I drove off, leaving the two of them, who were still crying, and headed to our new home. My father-in-law had lost his job, and even though he had interviewed many times, there was no sign of him being hired, and he became mentally ill. That's right. Apparently, my mother-in-law kept whining to my father-in-law, saying, "It's all your fault." My father-in-law had no power to say anything back to her, and did as she was told, but before I knew it, he had disappeared from the house. My mother-in-law seemed to have been overconfident that he would come back soon, but even after a month, my father-in-law still hadn't returned. My mother-in-law, worried, filed a missing person report with the police, but he has still not been found. My mother-in-law is now all alone, trembling with loneliness as she works part-time. She apparently asked the Kazu couple for help, but they are not so easy on her. It seems that they have completely cut off contact with her, just like us. She is in a miserable situation, being talked about behind her back by her senior at the part-time job, who was in her late teens, saying that she really can't do her job. But it can be said that it was all my mother-in-law's doing. I don't feel any sympathy for her. She is already out of my life. My mother-in-law, who has lived as a full-time housewife and has never worked, must be feeling the rough seas of the world. Finally, I would like to close by talking about myself. Our new house is just as I and Toru ordered, and we are living very comfortably. She seemed to really like the road, and said with a dazzling smile that this house is really fun. During New Year's, the Kazu family came to visit us, and we were able to feel the warmth of what it means to be a family. Kazu and Toru played video games with great gusto, and their reactions were so funny that we couldn't help but laugh out loud. Kana praised my illustrations and said that they were very cute, and told me that she was obsessed with a certain character. It's a different kind of joy to have your work praised by your family than it is to have public recognition. I'm really glad that I continued to work hard at this job. I'm currently working on illustrations for a big project, but I haven't told anyone about it yet. I'm so excited to see how my family will react when they see it, and I've vowed to do everything well, both at work and at home.